Hi folks, Alan Jenkins here with an Elevator Fundraising Subcommittee update. We've got some big news to share, but first, I want to talk about Fred Stoll. You all know Fred and the magnificent work that he's spearheaded on the kitchen. Well, he's a part of the Elevator Subcommittee too, and this whole time, Fred has encouraged us to create a graphic to show how well we're doing. You know, a thermometer like a lot of fundraisers have. In short, Fred had a lot of confidence that we could do this. So did Rick Hannenberg and Linda Leibel, who are also on the subcommittee. We've been tirelessly making phone calls and talking to people about just how important this elevator is going to be to the life of our congregation. It's because of their hard work that I can share this great news with you, and I'll do it with a graphic. Before the November campaign began, we had already raised $32,500.22. In November and December, we've raised an additional $57,312.56 in donations and pledges. That means our church has raised a total of $89,812.78. We are in striking distance of raising the total $130,000 needed to make our elevator a reality. Fred, Rick, and Linda have done amazing work, but none of it would be possible if it weren't for all of you, the people who believe in this church and its work. To everyone who has made a contribution or who has pledged, I want to extend a personal thank you. Your love is lifting us higher. This elevator is becoming a reality, and after a wildly successful fundraising campaign, it's time for us to take a step back as UUCS moves into another phase of its yearly fundraising calendar, the Annual Fund. Starting in February, you're going to be hearing some exciting things about how your continued support of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Spartanburg can further our church's mission and prepare us for life after the pandemic. We are so close to raising $130,000. If you haven't given yet, I hope you'll do so by visiting www.uucs.org/fundraising. And I hope you're ready to continue showing your support for UUCS as we gear up for the annual fund drive. Our congregation has stepped up in a big way. I thank the Elevator Fundraising Subcommittee for their hard work, the Long Range Planning Committee for their support, and the Board of Trustees for their vision. But most of all, I thank you for supporting this effort and for creating this wonderful community that my wife and I are proud to be a part of. Thank you so very much.
As the pandemic continues to surge in its worst phase yet, the UUCS Board and COVID Committee continue to carefully consider how to maintain our physical safety while also providing for the connection and emotional well-being of our congregation. We must keep one another safe, and we must cultivate our connection with one another. Please continue to practice basic public health protocols, wearing masks, social distancing, limiting group size, being outside whenever possible, and hand washing. Small groups, such as covenant groups and committees, are encouraged to gather in person outside at homes or on church grounds, practicing all of our safety protocols, or to meet virtually. We will also continue to plan one-time in-person events using careful planning and all of our safety measures. Allow me to share a few announcements from all that is happening in the life of our congregation. Save the date for our annual Generosity of Giving campaign on Sunday, January 31st at 12:30 p.m. We will have a virtual celebration of our congregation's unbelievable generosity in service and in giving. Come to celebrate unsung heroes and learn about our annual fund campaign this year. It's also time for our annual MLK Day of Service. We have 2 events planned for this year. First, we are collecting supplies for toiletry kits, regular sizes of shampoo, soap, deodorant, toothbrushes, and toothpaste. These will be distributed to Total Ministries, Angels Charge Ministries, and Piedmont Care. This year, our mask-making group will also donate face masks for the toiletry kits. To drop off supplies, come to our drive-thru on MLK Day, Monday, January 18th, 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. in our church parking lot on Henry Place. Another MLK Day of Service opportunity is the litter sweep. Spruce up nearby streets by removing litter and recording the data for the South Carolina Aquarium. Choose 10 a.m. to noon or 1:30 to 3:30 on MLK Day, Monday, January 18th. Meet at Hatcher House to gather materials and walk to nearby designated sites. Work independently or with a partner while wearing masks and distancing. Data collection sheets, clipboards, pens, garbage bags, and grabbers will be supplied. Please bring gloves. Contact Joyce Harrison for additional information or to get a data sheet to use when you collect litter in your own neighborhood. There are also 2 new adult enrichment opportunities coming soon. First, a Zoom video series on the history of our Unitarian Universalist movement, facilitated by UUCS member Jim Scanlon, beginning in February. Please see the happenings for more details. Secondly, there will be a virtual program offered for parents of children in kindergarten through 6th grade. Our Whole Lives is the human sexuality education program offered through the UUA. This will be a 2-hour program with the aim of providing parents with the confidence needed to be the primary sexuality educators for their children. Parents can participate in one of the 2 sessions, either Sunday, February 7th from 2 to 4 p.m. or Saturday, February 13th from 2 to 4 p.m. To enroll, please contact Sybil. What an amazing congregation this is. Especially in times like these, we need each other. Thank you for being a congregation of care. Thank you for being part of this congregation today.
Good morning. Thank you so much for being a part of this congregation this morning. On this MLK weekend, I want to thank so many of you who reached out to me this week. Last Sunday, I shared with you, in the wake of the insurrection at our nation's capital, why it is that I feel compelled to speak with you over and over and over again about racism and white supremacy as foundational corrupting ideologies of our nation. Why it is that I believe strongly we must revisit this over and over again, and how that transforms our work and strengthens us, empowers us to engage the world in ways that truly change our life together. Many, many, many of you reached out to me through emails and through calls and through texts to encourage me And I want to express my gratitude for that encouragement. Some of you said, yes, this is what we must do, no question at all. And some of you said, yeah, this is tough for me. It's very uncomfortable. But I get it. I see that this is our work to do. And I'm here to do it with you, with the whole congregation. And I want to just repeat, for all of us who are very uncomfortable about this and who may get angry at me for the way we revisit this over and over again, who may question whether this is the right approach, I invite your conversation. Please know that you can always reach out to me and I will speak with you about this, listen to you and share with you. It's okay to disagree with me. It's okay to think that I'm headed in totally the wrong direction. I welcome your thoughts because it's in that dialogue and that work together rather than in simple uniformity and agreement. It's in the dynamism of our conversation that we will find a way together that we badly need and that we will not discover otherwise. I want to ask you to bring to mind again that picture of our Capitol under siege. You can see our fellow citizens storming the gates. People that we know. People from this very community. Bring that picture to mind again. As I have shared with you many times, allow me to share once more that fundamentally, at its origins, from before this nation existed, in our colonies, racism was created for one purpose: power for the sake of greed. Racism is totally made up. It's not natural. It's not something people just do. It is a social construct of fiction, and it has a definite purpose. In all the ways that it has manifested now, all of the convoluted and complex web of lies that it has created over 400 years of national history, it still has one fundamental goal: power for the sake of greed. And 2 Wednesdays ago, that is exactly what we saw. We saw a white elite promise just a little bit of power, a little bit of buzz to the white working class if they would act to suppress our multi-ethnic democracy. This is a picture-perfect repetition of the old pattern from the Jamestown colony to the laws in colonial South Carolina, to the 3/5 compromise in the U.S. Constitution, to the exception clause in the 13th Amendment, to Jim Crow laws, to the canceling out of the Voting Rights Act in our own days. What we saw 2 Wednesdays ago is a picture of exactly what racism is. Now, I want to invite you in the face of that to engage with us tomorrow in our MLK Day of Service, and to go further even than that, to join us later this month for a film and discussion of 13th, a movie that is about exactly this. And then at the start of February, to engage once more in our congregational consciousness dialogue. We have a team that is generating this work to help us face the depth of our history together to find another way. And I want to invite you, especially if you're uncomfortable about this, especially if you disagree, join in these dialogues. Join in this service. Let us see what we can discover together. It is all too apparent how stuck these patterns are, how much we need to find another way. Racism is power for the sake of greed. But our congregation is about generosity for the sake of all. And the stories of generosity that are pouring out of this congregation are unbelievable. They defy logic. We are in the middle of the worst days of this pandemic. Our economy is faltering, and our families, the individuals in our congregation, they are feeling it. We are all feeling it. This is a time of dread and uncertainty. And yet, over and over again, as we heard from Alan Jenkins already this morning, the stories of sharing our gifts for the benefit of all pour out. That elevator that we are going to build, unbelievably, that we are going to build in the middle of a pandemic. It's not for one person. It's not to elevate one person over others, literally. It is to change the heart of this congregation so that we can all move through it with equality and freedom, that it is a fully shared space not only for ourselves but our whole community. It is generosity for the sake of all. You will hear over the next few weeks more stories, unreal stories of what this congregation is doing. Not just one thing as opposed to another, but one thing here and one thing here and one thing here, over and over and over again. So let me tell you one today. In the midst of all that is happening, all the service that this congregation is doing, and the generosity that is allowing us to build a kitchen in Wild Hall, to change that space into a truly communal space, far more versatile space, and the generosity of giving that is creating an elevator out of nothing before our eyes. 2 members of this congregation showed up on a bitterly cold morning last week to work on cabinetry in our basement, devoting their free labor and their considerable engineering expertise to make this space something for us all. And as they came to unlock these doors before anyone else was stirring, they found lying beside our building a woman and 2 dogs asleep. A neighbor of ours whose name we do not know, who had found at our church, at our congregation, a place of shelter and warmth in these bitterest days that we are all living. And the congregant who found this person let her rest, stepped back and reached out to a few other church leaders and said, just want you to know this is happening. Just want to check in about all that we can do. And every message on that text, before I could answer, from multiple people with very different views, very different personalities, who often do not agree with each other, often even hilariously get in fights with each other. Every person responding on that text responded with unquestioned compassion. What can we do to help? Does this person need food? How can we offer them shelter? If they found rest here, let them rest. Across all of our differences, an outpouring of compassion and generosity for a person who is our neighbor who we don't even know. Racism is power for the sake of greed, willing to send people into a fight built on a lie that will ruin their lives in a narcissistic attempt to build up their own poor power. But we are about generosity for the sake of all. So that when we build a beautiful structure like this sanctuary in which I stand now, we don't do it just for ourselves. We don't do it just for success and beauty. We do it for the neighbor whose name we will never know, so that she can sleep with just a margin of safety and warmth in our bitterest winter. We are here for all. Thank you for being here today.
And now to light our chalice. The best gift we can offer our beloved, and this is by Thich Nhat Hanh. The best gift we can offer our beloved is our true presence, our true listening. We can ask our beloved one, "Darling, do you think I understand you enough? Please tell me how you are really doing. Please open your heart and help me to understand your joys and difficulties so I can understand you and truly love you."
May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be filled with loving kindness. May I be well. May I be peaceful and at ease. May I be whole. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease. May you be whole. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be filled with loving kindness. May we be well. May we be peaceful and at ease. May we be whole.
Our UU faith does not have a creed that tells us what we must believe. We do have broad principles that guide how we might act. And to be more concrete and bring that down to our lives, a number of years ago, our congregation created a covenant to express how we want to be in relationship with each other and with the greater world. And I think that that covenant continues to be a light to guide us now and into tomorrow. Please join me as we say our covenant together. We are a people of faith and hope. Together we covenant to strive to become our better selves, to honor both the critical mind and the generous heart, to prove that diversity need not mean divisiveness, and to respond to systems of violence and oppression with the power of a love beyond belief. If we were gathered together here in the sanctuary, we would now have the opportunity to come forward and place a stone or a shell in our rippling water bowl to represent a joy or a sorrow. Joys shared can grow, and sorrows shared are less heavy. We would also have an opportunity to greet each other. Please do reach out to those on your mind today by text or email or maybe a phone call a little bit later. It's a way to expand and deepen our fellowship and share our current difficulties and joys. In spite of the pandemic, the life of this church goes on, serving each other in the community in ways that we would have not dreamed about a year ago. The pandemic has given us time for reflection, forced us to be creative, and led us into new and deeper community partnerships. Let's continue to support the church financially. You can locate the help button on our webpage, uucs.org, to donate funds and to find other ways that you can share your talents and treasures. One way to do that is through Share the Plate. Now, our congregation has had a long tradition of, quote-unquote, share the plate. When we are physically here together, it means we are sharing what actually comes into the offering plate and any specified contributions. This money is sent to a different cause every month, an organization that works against violence and oppression, or works to help those affected by violence or oppression. We continue in the spirit of sharing the plate even during our virtual Sundays. And this month, we are contributing to organizations who are working with refugees in camps just across our borders in Mexico. One of the organizations is Global Response in Matamoros, Mexico. This is a group of U.S. veterans who are working to provide humanitarian medical care in areas of the world impacted by war and conflict and in need of humanitarian support. In Matamoros, they have worked on their acronym of WASH, stands for Water, Sanitation, and Hygiene Measures for the camp of folks who are waiting on asylum. They've also, out of necessity, put up a COVID field hospital right in the middle of that camp. The other agency, kind of on the other end of the border, is Bridges of Love, an organization that is devoted to taking needed supplies to residents of the refugee camps in Tijuana. They're taking things like diapers, toiletries, warm clothes, blankets. They have love caravans, or that's volunteer drivers who deliver supplies across the border to various shelters, including at least one GLBT shelter. You can find out more about both of these by clicking on links in the order of service. And the order of service is has a link underneath the YouTube. Please consider a Share the Plate donation this month to support our Latino brothers and sisters who are in this very unjust situation.
About 2 decades ago, I was privileged to be in a Zen wellness group, and a lovely doctor led that group who was not only thinking in terms of people's physical well-being, but of their whole selves. And she offered us a metta meditation, a loving kindness meditation. And it has meant so much to me over those 20 years that out of gratitude for what she did for us I can offer this loving kindness to all of you. First, we express love for ourselves, sometimes a difficult thing for us. May you be free of suffering. May you be at peace. May you know the joy of your own true nature. May you be healed. May you be a source of healing for all others. May you know love. And then we express love for one we care about. May you be free of suffering. May you be at peace. May you know the joy of your own true nature. May you be healed. May you be a source of healing for all others. May you know love. And next, we express love for those we find difficult in small ways and in large. May you be free of suffering. May you be at peace. May you know the joy of your own true nature. May you be healed. May you be a source of healing for all others. May you know love. And finally, we express love for all living beings. May you be free of suffering. May you be at peace. May you know the joy of your own true nature. May you be healed. May you be a source of healing for all others. May you know love. And for all of you children out there, may you get ice cream.
May we all get ice cream. Join me in silence. kindness with those we love. Yesterday, my wife and my children and I got into our vehicle and we drove north and west into the mountains. We went to take a winter hike. And as we drove up above Saluda and past Hendersonville towards Asheville and that rising ring of mountains, the Blue Ridge, snow began to blow over our car. Just small flurries at first, but enough to excite South Carolinians beyond their wildest dreams. Fast talk and chatter and faces pressed to the window, and not only the faces of children. Excitement at the little beauty swirling around us. And as we drove deeper into the mountains, to see the snow blowing on the pavement as we drove, in patches here and there on rooftops and in the shade of trees, tucks between hills that hadn't seen sunlight since the last snow. Little touches of beauty, little promise of what we love to see here in the South in the winter and have not seen this year, have not seen for more than a year. As we drove deeper into the mountains, snow lay all around, thin, mostly ice, but it was there. And we pulled to the trailhead. Our wheels spun for just a moment on the frozen mud. We parked and bundled up, got our gear together so that we would have a little nourishment, a little water, and we set off into the wood, back into rhododendron groves. A gentle hike, an old roadbed turned trail, rising steadily around the curve of these beautiful ancient mountains, these maternal mountains that form the foothills of our home. And snow. Snow everywhere. Snow to wonder at, and snow coming down in spurts, sometimes from wind blowing the branches of the trees over us and dropping old flurries down to the forest floor. And sometimes as cloud passed over, fresh snow falling as well. And I want you just to imagine, just feel with me the bite of that wind and the cold through our layers, across our cheeks, our faces blossoming red from the bite, and the joy. Even in the cold, the warmth that we felt, the happiness at all of that beauty around us. I've hiked in the snow many times alone, and I love it. It is a pristine beauty. The quiet is so perfect. The solitude and the completeness of the woods, it fills my soul. The woods and snow are beautiful. But the woods and snow with my wife and children, it's not quiet. It's still but alive and full of sound, things that we notice, things that we see, things to point out to each other. The way water runs through the snow and keeps running. The way some stones are exposed and others covered. The way moss keeps growing and is that vibrant green even in the middle of winter. The difference between deciduous trees and evergreens and rhododendron, how thick they grow and how beautiful, and the handholds they offer us when we slip. So many stories to tell. So much mud and ice to tromp through. So much wonder. And the warmth that it generates in us to be there together, moving through that world of beauty. It is wonderful to love and to be with those that we love. And that love that we feel with those we hold most dear, those for whom we care the very most. That love is warmth. It fuels us and fires us. It gives us the strength to face even the coldest wind, and to do it with joy and stories and laughter, and to press on deeper into the adventure. Even in this difficult year, there is so much beauty, and so much beauty to share. Here in the new year, we are thinking together about loving kindness, and thinking together not just about the concept of loving kindness, not just a belief or a principle, but the practice of loving kindness through the metta meditation that comes to us from the Buddhist tradition, handed down by generations of teachers through our own member, Judy Allen, to us today. And this is a practice that we'll take up again in later months as well, something to guide us through the year, something concrete and actionable, workable, to help us with whatever lies ahead. Loving kindness may sound like sentiment, like something almost saccharine, too sweet to hold up to the difficulty of the times in which we're living. But that is not what loving kindness is at all. It is much stronger, much more grounded, much more robust than that. Loving kindness is a concept that we find in all of the world's spiritual traditions. In Judaism, Hesed, attributed to the divinity and lived out by the prophets. When the prophets of ancient Judaism call out their own society, speak to their own society truth for the sake of justice, and summon them to care for their most vulnerable members rather than to lose themselves in piety and worship, they are speaking from that Hesed. It allows them to face down kings and despots and to call their people out of exile, out of war, out of loss, out of ruin, back to their true selves, back to their true nature, back to their highest calling, to their best being. This is not for the faint of heart. This is for prophets who speak truth to power and sometimes lose their lives doing it. Think of Jeremiah. Think of Amos. Think of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Loving kindness is the lifeblood of China, that vast, complex nation built on the principle that if we educate our population, train our population in character, in right relationship with family, relationship with partner, relationship with friend, relationship with state, then we can build a stable society. A philosophy that came out of a time of profound civil war, when the states of China were ripping themselves apart, power for the sake of greed. Confucius, a simple bureaucrat, developed this philosophy of education and culture to teach his people that they could learn to care for each other again. And at the heart is Ren, loving kindness, a principle that gives life to a vast empire. This is what modern-day China is still built on. For all of its failures, all that comes with bureaucracy and oppression, at its core, loving kindness. And on and on. When Mahatma Gandhi stood up to the British Empire and summoned modern India to independence, the principle of ahimsa and maitri, of nonviolence and loving kindness, kindness for all beings, was his guiding principle. Principle that can build and bring to its knees empires. This is what we're talking about. And at a time when our own nation shakes, when the foundations of our own democracy are in question, loving kindness, prophetic, structural, profound, courageous, generous for all. It summons us to a way that our people need. The brilliance of loving kindness is not just that it's a vaunted ideal, not just that it's good philosophy, not just that it has this storied history that I have laid out in the barest of outlines. It's a practice. You don't have to believe in it to try it. In fact, it's just as well that you don't. The reason that Judy is guiding us in this meditation every month, every week, we'll see about every month, every week, is so that we can experience this first. When we don't feel loving, when we have not been kind, that is the perfect time to practice again the loving kindness meditation. Dr. King lost his temper. Gandhi blew up at people. Confucius was brilliant but no saint. Just like the rest of us, human beings all. And so this is a practice, a staff we can lean on for the hike through the cold winter wind. Something we can return to again and again to recenter ourselves and to find our way. Today, we think of kindness with those that we love. When we practice the loving kindness meditation, this can be a joyful moment. The first step of kindness with ourselves is difficult. Many of you reached out to me this past week and shared just how awkward you feel offering loving kindness to yourself, and I do as well. It often feels contrived and artificial to me, and yet that is the practice that teacher after teacher after teacher has insisted we begin with, that is the foundation of compassion. And so we challenge ourselves in our awkwardness to do that, to love ourselves. When we come to offering kindness for those who we love already, it seems easy. Friends come to mind, children, partners, lovers, spouses, colleagues that we get along with well, teachers who've cared for us and taught us, all those people that we love. And there can be an upwelling of joy. That's good. Let that joy come. It's like watching the first flurries of snow as you drive deeper into the drifts. The beauty of the world come to us through those that we love. And we feel that warmth that burns within us, the light contained within our very bodies, emanating from us, warming us. And we send that love to those that we love. Feel for just a moment that warmth and that goodness. It is golden and bright and there. And it is so worth feeling again and again and again. The circumstances of a nation and of our history, of a world in pandemic, cannot take away that love that we feel for those we hold most dear. Feel that love for those you care for most. And send it to them. Send that love to them now. They deserve it, and so do you. And we know, as we feel that love, that warmth and that kindness that overflows, that so often it is the case that the people who we love the most and the people who love us the most are the very people that we hurt the most and who hurt us. Love is vulnerability. When we choose to love, we open ourselves to another. We open our hearts, and therefore we are exposed. Part of the gift of love is risking ourselves on another. And although we hope and may well receive warmth and generosity and love, may it be so, we know also that when we open ourselves with that vulnerability, when we risk ourselves on a lover or a partner or spouse or a friend or a child, almost inevitably, we will sometimes also be hurt. We will experience that cut. Now, I want to be clear. The kind of hurt I'm talking about is not abuse. And if you are experiencing abuse in a relationship, emotional or physical or sexual abuse, get out. Get out. Abuse is of a different order, and it is not to be tolerated. You can call Safe Homes Coalition here in Spartanburg, or an agency in the community where you live. And if you're not sure of where to turn, you can call this church, and we will help you find the next step. What I'm talking about today is no justification. It is no excuse for abuse and abusive behavior. But in our relationships that are the most loving, that are not abusive, we are still prone to hurt each other sometimes. And very often, the hurt that we experience between each other is because we have entered into a relationship in order to meet one another's needs. We find one another. We engage in a relationship with each other because we fulfill each other. And in that very fulfillment, our own needs, our own pain, our own loss also emerges. And we sometimes ask of one another what we cannot give. We sometimes demand of one another what is not there to be given. And so we lash out, or we pull back. We hurt the very people that we love. Yesterday morning, I got up early before the rest of my family awoke. I prepared us for the day. I made breakfast. I gently roused people so that they could rest, but we would be ready to get on the road. We had a beautiful morning together. And then right before we were to leave, I got a message that disturbed me. Something that I could not solve right in that moment, but that was serious and concerning. And I could feel the anxiety and the stress well up in me. My children asked a question that they're fully entitled to ask, but a question that I felt I had already answered. And I snapped. I got angry and I sparked. And although I was offering correction, not inappropriately, to my children, as I have a responsibility to do as a father, a question being raised that's already been addressed, a tone in the voice that needs to be corrected, and I speak to that correctly. The anxiety and the stress of the other situation, full in my body, caused me to speak with a tone that was not right, and to cause even more anger and stress from what already was present in our home. And I found myself at the very moment, as a father offering guidance and correction, needing to apologize. That temper, that anger with which I spoke, wasn't their fault. It had nothing to do with them. It came from something entirely different. And so it often is with each of us. The times that we hurt the people that we love is because there's something else that we're carrying, and we're looking for help, something else that needs satisfaction, and we don't know how to get it. We might be too prideful to even ask, to even know what to do. When our loved ones tell us that we have hurt them, we need to have the humility to stop and listen. When we can see, whether they say it or not, that we have caused harm, we need to stop and say those powerful, magical, difficult words, "I'm sorry." And when someone tells us that we're not listening to them and not hearing them, even though we think we are, we need to stop and ask them to speak to us again. I think I've heard you, but you're saying that you don't feel heard by me. Speak with me again. Let me tell you, I am the worst of all sinners in my own family when it comes to this. I am an outstanding listener in the world around me, but often very poor in my own home. But these are the people that I love, the people who I hold most dear. I love this whole congregation, and to be honest with you, I love the world. I do. I cultivate that. But there are 3 people in this world that I value above all others without apology. And they are the ones to whom I most often need to offer apology. And when we do, when we say we're sorry, when we stop to listen again, when we realize that was my problem and I spewed it on you, and I'm sorry, and I need help. When we find ourselves in that conflict with friends and colleagues and those we love, apologize and listen again. It is unbelievable how much the warmth of love that we knew before can well up in us in even greater scale when we have made amends. When we love not only in the first blush of love or the first joy of friendship, but through difficulty and broken relationship and mended relationship, when we have walked the path together, when we have weathered the cold alongside each other and given each other warmth and comfort, the time comes when we will lose each other, when our friends, our loved ones will be parted from us. And that is part of the grief that we are all living, a grief in slow motion that we do not have time to process now because we're all just trying to make it. The grief of those that we love who die, who pass on, who transition, who leave, who we cannot access. Small griefs or monumental, we will suffer loss. Now, in this congregation, we are about the business of doing the illogical. We work with paradox, opposites that should contradict each other, but somehow can bring life to one another. And so, in the legacy of the meta meditation handed down through generations, I want to ask you in this time of grief to try something. In that loss that we have suffered, friends and family and loved ones who have died, or who are separated us by a distance that we cannot bridge right now, for which we know Zoom and FaceTime are very poor replacements. I want to urge you into the emptiness of the air before you, into the cold wind and the flurries, to speak love. Speak love. Speak love to the very ones that you have lost. I know it sounds absurd, but if we can do a meditation and send love to those that we love in this world, why not to those also separated from us, and even those who have left this world? I have heard often from those who have lost a spouse or a loved one, who've lost a beloved parent or a friend or even a pet, that they find themselves talking to the person against reason and logic still talking to the person, and in that they find some solace. If that is a natural reaction, let us try it again. I think of our nation. I think of our nation at this time of crisis, on this Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, on the eve of inauguration, when our whole capital has become an armed camp, and every state capital is on high alert for security. And I think of a man who died decades ago now. And doesn't it just seem somehow, whatever life and death are, and whatever lies beyond this life or doesn't, we have no idea. But doesn't it seem somehow that the love that Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. had for all of us, many of whom were not even born when he died, a love that none of us deserved, that we had not earned, and that nonetheless he dedicated his life to on behalf of us all. Doesn't it seem somehow, that the spirit of that man hovers over us all this weekend, calling all of us to a better way? If the spirit of Dr. King seems somehow present with us, whatever that actually means, I don't really care what it actually means. If somehow he seems present to us, why not speak gratitude to him and love and hope for our nation? And if to him, why not to every person that we love? I tell my children and my wife that whenever the time for our parting comes, may it be years down the road, and may I be the first, that when that day comes, whenever they need me, they can call to me. And I have no idea how, but I love them, and I will come to them. If love can build nations, and love can topple empires, and love can guide our own country through 400 years of violence and oppression, then love is greater than death. Send love. Send love to those you love the most, especially when you are in conflict with them, especially when you are separated from them, even separated by the apparent boundaries of this life. Send love.
When you're down and troubled and you need some love and care, and nothing, oh, nothing is going right. Close your eyes and think of me, and soon I will be there to brighten up even your darkest night. You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you gotta do is call, and I will be there. Yes, I will. You've got a friend. If the sky high above you should turn dark and full of clouds, and that old north wind should begin to blow, You just call out my name, and you know wherever I am, I'll come running to see you again. Winter, spring, summer, or fall, all you gotta do is call, and I will be there. Yes, I will. You got a friend. You got a friend. You got a friend.
This mantra is what you practice when your beloved one is suffering. Darling, I know you're suffering. That is why I am here for you. Before you do something to help, your presence already can bring some relief. And then, this is a little bit more difficult. It is what you practice when you suffer and you believe that your suffering has been caused by your beloved. If someone else had done this same wrong to you, you would have suffered less. But this is the person you love the most, so you suffer deeply. You prefer to go to your room and close the door and suffer alone. You are hurt. You want to punish him or her for having made you suffer. This mantra is to overcome that. Darling, I suffer. I am doing my best to practice. Please help me. You go to him, you go to her, and practice that. And if you can bring yourself to say that mantra, you suffer less right away, because you do not have that obstacle standing between you and the other person.
What I'm going to say sounds ridiculous. It sounds sentimental. It sounds sweet and weak. But it is true. It is our history. History of human beings, nation after nation, throughout time. Love builds a people up, and love can end oppression and empire. Love is stronger even than death. Love those you hold most dear, no matter the distance. Send love.
We have spent time together, and these holy moments give us strength to go down the winding road until we meet again. We have spent time together, and these holy moments give us strength